And joining us on the program right now, Jim Curry with the National Association of Chiefs of Police, talking about that arms trade treaty that they are working on up at the UN. Jim, thanks for coming on the program tonight, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me on again, Cam.
You bet. All right, so, we've been following, honestly, we've been following here at NRA News this arms trade treaty as long as we've been on the air. I mean, just a couple of months after we launched in 2004, we were in New York for a biannual meeting of the arms trade treaty. They've been working on this for an awfully long time, Jim. And by July 27th, they actually want to have a document in hand that countries can sign on to. What are you hearing about what the scope of this treaty is going to look like?
Well, they keep telling American gun owners and American law enforcement that this will have no impact on American gun owners. But reading what I've read from the United Nations, I could see where the signatories, for example, Obama, President Obama, let's call him Osama, President Obama, if he signs on, could use it as part of international law that we're seeing being used in our courts. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and a lot of people don't know this, while she was overseas, she was giving a lecture, and she was talking about Egypt. And she said that Egypt would be better off imitating the Constitution of South Africa than the Constitution of the United States. So that should send a signal to gun owners that we have jurists in this country who would use international law, such as this what I consider a gun grab grant.
Well, absolutely. I think you're right about that. And we certainly, that attitude, Jim, is so prevalent within legal circles that our Constitution is just one document among many to consider when you are, making your judicial rulings. And I think that has to be a concern. I think another concern is that, they keep saying it's not about our guns. And yet when we keep saying, okay, well, then exempt civilian firearms from the Arms Trade Treaty, we're told, oh, we can't do that.
Right, exactly. Because down the line, you were talking about a number of politicians, Obama, his Attorney General, Eric Holder, Janet Napolitano, all the people that he's put into law enforcement positions that are pro-gun control. And you could even tie it into Fast and Furious. The fact that we would walk guns across a border into a foreign country, defying their sovereignty. Originally, in that case, the Attorney General of Mexico wanted to bring charges against the Obama administration. Now, I don't know whatever happened to that. I know that the Mexican newspapers were covering the story, and a couple of American newspapers also.
Right.
But they were covering extensively because they felt that their sovereignty had been violated by this program, arming people in another country in order to make a point about gun control in your own country.
Well, yeah, and again, I don't know. I think the investigation is still ongoing down there in Mexico. I don't know when it will continue or when it will wrap up. But obviously, there's a lot of concern south of the border about what's going on there. And
this is part of what they're using this United Nations resolution or treaty or whatever they want to call it this week. This is part of it. And you have to start connecting the dots to see where this administration is going, where these liberal politicians are going, to bypass our Second Amendment. When we have a president that says that the U.S. Constitution is made up of negative liberties, exactly what does he mean by that?
I guess negative liberties, as opposed to positive liberties, the positive liberties being things that the government can provide for us, like the freedom from want and fear and things of that nature?
I imagine that's what he meant. Now, if he's talking about the Second Amendment being a negative liberty, that pretty much sums up his opinion of Second Amendment rights.
Well, yeah, but look, I mean, we've known President Obama's opinion and the opinion of the administration when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms since long before President Obama was even running for the office of president.
Well, it's not just president. It's not just the president. We're talking about people in both parties, Republicans and Democrats, who may pay lip service to gun owners and to gun groups, but deep down they're looking for ways to bypass the Second Amendment, and they have the types of justices in place that would find a way to do it for them.
Yes. No, I agree with you, Jim. So, I mean, how concerned are you about what this final treaty is going to look like?
Well, I'm against any type of treaty such as this. It's not, I think it's a misnomer. Treaty to me always meant that, you're trying to avoid a war, you're trying to avoid conflict, and its use in this piece of legislature, international legislation, I find it very disturbing that they're even calling it a treaty.
Why do you find it disturbing that they're calling it a treaty?
Well, there's no conflict involved. We're trying to resolve what conflict by passing this UN law, basically an international law that we would sign on to. This administration is going to use that in the future, I predict, to curb gun owners' rights in this country, and they will use it. They will use it as a way to avoid their political to avoid any political ramifications of what they do. In other words, they'll say it's not our fault; it's the UN's fault.
Right. Now, Jim, I got to ask you while I've got you here. I don't know if you saw the comments by Mayor Rahm Emanuel up in Chicago. Obviously, you're well aware of all of the violence that has been taking place. And Mayor Emanuel said basically he wants the gang members in Chicago to have some respect for the people around them and to take their conflicts into the alleyway. And he said, don't go after the kids. If you're getting ready to get into it and there's a kid around, go take it somewhere else. Which, look, I mean, I understand the frustration of the mayor, but Jim, this sounds like kind of wishful thinking on the part of the mayor.
Oh, it is. We're talking about these gangs that we're seeing, and we're talking about MS-13. We're talking about the Bloods and the Crips in Chicago. You have the Crowns and the Mighty Lords and all of these other gangs. It is getting out of control here in the United States. And, you can't, it's the same as dealing with terrorists. You cannot deal with them the way you would deal with a normal human being. They have a different agenda. They have a different mindset. It's the law of the streets as far as they're concerned. And, they're going to, again, they try in Chicago and in the state of Illinois, they're trying to use the gang violence as a way to really take away the rights of citizens to bear arms. Chicago is one of the most difficult cities in the country, along with New York and Los Angeles, to get a gun permit.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, look, Chicago's had, really restrictive gun control laws for 3 decades or more now. Hasn't done much to stop the gang violence, but the law-abiding, the good people of Chicago, they're the ones who can't carry for personal protection when they're going to and from the grocery store, when they're going to and from work. They're the ones who are hurt.
Exactly, especially the minority communities. I find it racist to a certain extent when you deny minorities access to firearms, saying that they can't they will not be able to use them properly, and all the rest of the jargon that we hear emanating from these politicians. And, our organization, we've done surveys every year. And every year, our surveys show that the majority of law enforcement commanders in this country believe that citizens have a right to bear arms for sport and for self-defense.
I remember the surveys. You guys have it coming out, probably around September or so? Is that when you normally put
Right,
it out?
yeah, around September.
Uh-huh.
Every year, and the number is going up. The number is climbing. The number of police commanders that believe citizens should have the right to concealed weapons is increasing. So, when law enforcement believes that citizens have a right to protect themselves, I can't see how politicians can rationalize the steps that they take to prevent them from having those weapons.
Well, I'm with you, Jim. And listen, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, sir. Great catching up with you, and let's do this again soon.
Anytime, Cam. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Jim Curry with the National Association of Chiefs of Police.